As the film opens, Jason Kelly, a successful attorney, is attending his grandmother's funeral and mingling with the attendees. When he excuses himself to take a moment to reflect beside his grandmother's coffin, he runs into his cousin Nick, who is completely intoxicated and high on drugs. As a result of that, Nick believes their grandmother was murdered, but Jason tries to make him understand that she had cancer for about 10 years. Later that day, Jason's grandfather Richard Kelly attends the church's memorial service. Everyone there is depressed over the events of the day, but Meredith, Jason's domineering fiancée, is more worried about the tie Jason will wear to their rehearsal brunch. After the funeral, Richard asks his son David to allow Jason to be the one to drive him down to Florida as a custom he had with their grandmother. David has doubts about the journey and questions why Nick can't drive him instead of Jason. Jason attempts to speak for himself, but his father cuts him off. Richard plays the deceased grandmother card, implying that it was her dying wish, and also says that he hasn't spent any quality time with Jason. After much convincing, Jason agrees to take his grandfather to Florida. The next day, when Jason gets to Richard's house, he sees Richard working on himself. Jason is embarrassed and confused, but Richard doesn't care about that. After providing him with a beverage for breakfast, Richard informs him that they will not be taking the route that his father David has suggested. Jason and Richard stop for breakfast at a diner along the way. Jason is busy on his phone, and seeing that, Richard asks Jason about his job and reminds him of the time he had aspirations of becoming a professional photographer and traveling the world. Jason, on the other hand, explains to him the benefits of his line of work. But Richard doesn't care about all those things and heads out to the liquor store. While all of this is going on, three friends, Shadia, Lenora, and Bradley, are eating breakfast at a table nearby. Shadia tells her friends about Jason after recognizing him. She then approaches him to say hello, but he is too busy working to notice and assumes she is a waitress. Shadia quickly grabs the money, pays the bill on their table, and exits the restaurant while Jason stays working on the laptop. However, the real waitress arrives shortly after, and Jason realizes that he has been duped and runs to their car before they leave. There, he sees Shadia and recognizes her from his photography class. When Richard notices that, he pretends to be a college professor in order to find his way in. He also clicks with Lenore right away, who is coincidentally seeking a thing with a college professor. After some funny chat, Shadia and her friends leave. Jason and his grandfather arrive at the golf course, where Richard notices two ladies who are playing golf at a beginner level. He uses the electric golf cart to cross over the field to be closer to the ladies and lies that he is a retired astronaut and licensed golf professional willing to help them. When Jason calls him grandpa, he throws the golf stick away and tells the ladies that Jason is a special child that he and his family have been caring for. But when Richard heads to their vehicle to get them a refill, Jason tells them about his career and that his grandfather just lost his wife. They believe him and leave from there. After coming back, Richard shouts at Jason for telling them the truth and also tells him why he is doing all these weird things, which is he wants to have sex. Jason can't grasp how Richard, who just lost his wife, is already hitting on several women. But as per his defense, he was loyal to Jason's grandmother for 40 years, and now that he is single, there is nothing wrong with having such kind of desire. Jason doesn't agree with that, but ignores it and starts playing golf. As they are playing golf, Richard hears a message pop up on Jason's phone. He grabs it and finds that Lenora had sent an invitation to the party at Daytona Beach, as well as a picture of herself in her birthday suit to the professor. After Jason refuses to give him the keys, Richard quickly hot-wires the golf car, and they start their journey to Daytona. While in the traffic at Daytona Beach, Jason receives a call from Meredith, and she is seeking Jason's feedback on having their wedding announcement posted on a popular website. When he talks back, she couldn't hear anything because Richard keeps disrupting the call. Richard then picks up his phone and texts Lenora and Shadia to ask them to meet up at the beach. Before heading to the beach, they go to a shop to buy some beachwear. There, Jason asks Richard why his father David hates Richard. He answers him that since he was in the army, he missed out David's entire childhood and he was not there for anything. Richard knows what he did was not right, but his job demanded and he was forced to do it. As they were talking, a stranger breaks into the shop claiming to be a robber, but soon he reveals himself as the shop owner Pam and shows them all kinds of drugs he is selling. They don't buy any drugs, instead take some beachwear and head to the beach. There they meet Shadia and her friends. As they were talking, two boys, Bra and Cody, join them and invite them to a pool party next to their hotel. At the pool, Richard mixes 1 cup of beer with Xanax with the intention of getting Bra high. But when they enter into a drinking competition, Jason ends up drinking the spiked beer and things quickly go south, and Jason is now very high on Xanax. The drugs make him do many weird things such as dancing naked and later things get more worse when he runs into Pam, because Pam gives him an e-cigarette that is laced with crack. Things unravel even faster when Richard and Shadia are unable to get to Jason in time. He then takes someone's bike from the party and rides away while everyone else stays watching him. The following day morning, he wakes up at the beach and sees so many missed calls from Meredith. He calls her back, but she asks him to FaceTime so that she can show him the flowers she chooses for the wedding. In the call, Jason's parents and Nick also join, and they notice a penis swastika on Jason's forehead, but Jason somehow manages to convince them that it is the image filter and not real. Just when the situation is starting to seem manageable, a young kid passes by and is completely fascinated by Jason's provocative fanny pack. The kid then pulls out that fanny pack, and while he does that, his father sees it and thinks of something weird is happening behind the drums. He then runs to them, where Jason tries to explain what actually happened, but the father does not listen to him, instead pushes Jason down and later gets arrested by the local cops. Inside the jail, Jason tries to get his phone so that he can call someone, but the officers only mock him for it. Just then, Richard bails him out of jail, and he ends up walking out with the funny-looking outfit because they were the only clothes available. As soon as Jason meets Richard, he gets so mad and tells him he won't drive Richard to Boca anymore. Instead, he will drop Richard at his veteran buddy Stinky, and from there, Stinky would drive Richard to Boca. Both agree to it and reach the nursing home where he is staying. However, when they see him, Stinky is in a wheelchair because of liver failure. Seeing that Richard is upset and realizes even his time is near. With this, he pleads with Jason to take him back to Daytona, where he can be with Lenora and live his remaining years without regrets. Jason agrees to help his grandfather one last time, and they set out to the beach, where they meet Shadia and Lenora again. The girls then encourage Jason and Richard to go on stage for a flex-off with Bra and Cody. After several unsuccessful attempts, Jason and Richard come up with an idea to bust a move that they did together when he was younger. They steal the show with that move, and Pam urges the audience to pull out their phones and take pictures for the internet. Jason immediately leaves the stage after becoming terrified that if the photos become public, he might lose his job. Richard then uses a confetti sprayer to hit Bra, causing him to be hospitalized, and that gives them time to use Bra's room for the night. Later that night, they visit a nightclub and get drunk. While dancing, Richard notices a group of guys teasing Bradley for being gay. Richard interferes and challenges the gang to a fight in the parking lot. Jason is worried that they might lose because they are fewer in number, but Richard manages to fight them all off after Jason takes the first punch. The next day, Shadia takes Jason to a site where people are protesting against cutting down trees. They get very close at the site, and when they are about to kiss, Shadia gets a call from Bradley saying that Richard and Lenora have been kidnapped. They look everywhere and at last find them with the same gang whom they fought in the parking lot, but when they reach there, they see Richard chilling with the gang members because Richard had some weed from Lebanon, and when he offered that to the gang, they couldn't resist. Later, they all go to a club where Jason and Shadia end up singing the song he and his fiancée plan to sing at the wedding. While all this happens, Bra and Cody hide some weed inside Richard's jacket to get him arrested. After coming from the club, Jason decides to call off his wedding and tell Shadia the truth about himself. But before he reaches there, Bra and Cody have already uncovered the truth and reveal to everyone that Richard was a colonel in the army and that Jason is a lawyer set to marry Meredith the next weekend. Jason tries to explain, but Shadia doesn't listen to him and tells him to get out. Having received a tip-off from Bra, the police officers bust in on time and find the weed in Richard's jacket, which Jason was wearing at the time. The next day, Richard bails him out, and after coming outside in some fancy dress, Jason expresses utter disappointment and they get into a heated exchange, where Richard admits he did all these to stop him from marrying Meredith. Angry Jason revokes Richard's invitation to the wedding and travels back to Atlanta, where he lives with Meredith. On the day of the rehearsal brunch, Jason and Meredith sing a song together and plays a video on the screen, but Richard, with the help of a hacker, changes the video and inserts the photos they took when they were on the trip. Seeing that Jason changes his mind and tells Meredith that he can't marry her, he then leaves the rehearsal brunch and finds Richard waiting for him outside with Pam. They all get into Pam's ice cream truck, and before leaving, David tries to stop them, but Pam uses a taser gun on him, which leads him to fall unconscious. They take David along with them, and Pam draws penises on David's face. When the van gets stuck in traffic, Richard takes the wheel and goes in a different route with maximum speed. The cops notice that and start chasing them. They finally catch up to Shadia's bus and nearly get into a head-on collision in a crazy attempt to stop them. Jason opens up everything to her and asks her to stay, but she has already made up her mind for the trip. Jason then decides to join her instead, to which Shadia agrees and they both kiss. Meanwhile, the police officers try to arrest Jason again, but this time David, who is also a lawyer, stops them from doing it. David then leaves Richard at his apartment and agrees to work on their relationship. When he enters the room, Richard sees half-naked Lenora waiting for him. They both won't wait any longer and get straight to business. After a year, we see see Jason standing next to Shadia with a baby in his hands at baptism. The baby is Richard's new son with Lenore, and Jason and Shadia are the boy's godparents.
Thank you for watching. It may be easy for you to like and subscribe, but it means the world to us. Please subscribe for more movie recaps.